Greetings to you wherever you are under the sound of my voice. This is the Pan-African Drive, a platform that is meant to inspire and motivate the current generation of young Africans in the actualization of their respective dreams, preaching the message of peace and national unity, as well as revitalizing the Africanization policy that speaks about good governance, social justice, democracy, human rights, and most importantly, the African unity. You've heard about the African solution to the African problem. That is the essence of the Pan-African Drives, and it comes away weekly on Teledal TV, the best online outlet, not just in the Gambia, but by extension the rest of the African continent. With me, Tony Michael Howard, your host. And for today's edition of the Pan-African Drive, we are super honored and privileged to be in a very close conversation with a politician by practical action with a taste of Pan-Africanism. She is Madam Mary Sok Jabi, and she's going to be sharing her expertise on the national and the continental cohesion when it comes to the ideas of Pan-Africanism by the pioneers of Pan-Africanism. So should I say to you, welcome to this platform. We're very super honored to have you here today, Madam.
Thank you so much, Mr. Howard, for really having me on your platform, the Teledal TV.
Okay.
And it's a great honor to see you once again. I think we've done this many years ago, so it's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on here.
Okay, that's the voice there of our guest on the platform today. Quickly, you're coming from a business background and then springing into politics as a female. Of course, there are a lot of females that have broken the deadlock from my own mama Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. You have the Joyce Banda, and Namibia currently has a female president, and so to speak. Drive us through your political life. What are the values that inform your decision to desiring the highest seat of the Gambia CKAD presidency? What are the values that inform your decision for that?
Well, as a business person, I've lived and traveled extensively. I've lived in Europe and the US, where I acquired businesses and employed a lot of people, Europeans for that matter, that have worked for me, and have been basically a CEO all my life, most of my life. And coming back home, of course, at some point you live abroad, you get tired of a systematic government, especially in the US. And I felt, you know, it's time to go back to Africa, even if I come, visit, go back, you know, stuff like that. And when I came to the Gambia in 2013, basically my dad passed away, and I came to the funeral arrangements and stuff. Yeah, indeed. I came to realize there's a lot of things lacking. You know, after staying away for so long, it was devastating. Yes, there's development, like a road here and there, but is that enough? And that was the time of the former president, Jammeh. And then in 2015, Gambia was talking about change. You know, they talked about they're not happy with the situation. Gambians were not the same anymore. When you want to talk openly about issues, people will whisper, you know, oh, you can't say that. Oh, you can't come from America and talk like this. I said, but you're all living in fear. You know, you're all living in a system where you're not happy. But finally, in 2015, 2016, Gambians stood up and said, okay, enough is enough. We want our freedom back. I did not join a coalition. I supported a political party, which from the inception, I was the mastermind behind everything. I think to the point where Jammeh announced that the American helping politicians, there was a warning. And that was me, but I figured, let me be part of the change. You know, you can't just be going back and forth to Gambia and abroad and then coming and enjoying and going back. You need to be part of a change, because if we say this is our country, then it takes all of us together to support and help the ones here. They can't do it by themselves. And that's how I got involved, and involved in politics. The party that I stood with never joined the coalition because I didn't believe in joining the coalition.
Okay.
Eventually, I left, but I still made sure I was part and parcel of 2016.
Okay.
I went to the inauguration of the now president in Senegal. I made sure I had to leave the country because of diplomatic issues, with the children and stuff like that, and being a U.S. citizen, so I had to leave. But I made sure I was present in the inauguration in Senegal. I made sure I was present in the event here in Fajara. And I basically saw everything firsthand because it was right all in front of me.
Okay.
So when Gambia ushered in that change, that renewed hope of now let us move forward to, everybody was happy.
Yeah,
It was a moment.
yeah.
Yes, it was a moment, especially for us coming from the diaspora. We feel, okay, now we have the chance to bring our expertise, things we know, things we've done into the country.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we are met with the same system, so the system never changed from what we were crying for.
Okay.
And I then dive deeper into other political parties that invited me actually to set up their parties just like I did previously because they've seen how I work.
Okay.
They've seen my intensity.
Yeah.
Because where I come from, it's not about you sit back and allow people to do things for you. You fight for what you want.
wake up,
In America, you have people like Rosa Parks that had to fight to sit in front of the bus, as a woman.
Yeah.
So these are things that Gambians have to understand that when you want something and you want it so bad, you need to fight for it. You can't just sit back and let people just slide with whatever it is that they're feeding you.
Okay.
So that is how I went again into politics. Then I stopped again because the same values were not there. Most of these guys that want to be president, they just want to be kings.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even want to read their own manifesto. You will write a manifesto or you do the document for them. They're not interested to read it. They're interested to be that guy that's just sitting there and become a king.
Okay.
And then people come and worship them. I didn't come here to make you a king.
Just for the title.
That's ridiculous.
Okay.
I come here to serve. And if we are to serve the country together, I'm risking more than you're risking because I'm risking my citizenship, I'm risking my kids, I'm risking everything and giving my 100% to help us to change a status quo. But if you feel that I should help you to be a king, I'm sorry, that's not for me. So I stopped, and people that were seeing me in the political arena never saw me again. I did the peace deal between the 3 years Jotna and the 5 year for peace.
Okay.
Single-handedly and basically created peace in the Gambia, which today no one talks about it, which I think was a very crucial moment for the Gambia at the time when people were sleeping. I was running up and down between the two parties to make sure that peace reigned. And from there, the youth saw me and said, that they're very happy to see me again, and why am I not in politics? I said, because the politics you have here is it's a foolery,
Okay.
It's a politics of, how do you call it? They're just misleading, the people, divide and rule through tribe and religion.
Okay.
That's not what I stand for. I'm a socialist. I'm somebody who believes in the social fabric of the Gambia, the people, which is the people, taking care of the people. Exactly. How we can have them to be part and parcel of decision making. I believe in a democratic system, but not the democratic system of the West. We had democracy in Africa, and the democracy we have was equal opportunity. We grew up like that in our society, in our home, where the parent will make sure that all the children have the same share. So that's how we grew up, and that's the democratic way, actually. So if you put that in the context of a country, that's how it's supposed to be. So that's what I believe in.
Okay.
And they did come to my office. A lot of people came to my office to bring me back into the political arena. It took over 3 months of back and forth, but finally I agreed on a condition that we will form a movement.
Okay.
I believe in a revolutionary movement. I don't believe in the political party system of the Gambia.
Okay.
For the simple reason that the political party system of the Gambia is being used as a manipulative system.
Okay.
I believe the political party system of the Gambia is marginalizing people. In the political party system that was basically here since the colonial time is meant for one person. And that one person is a man. Because then you have the woman mobilizer. The women are put in a box, which is the woman mobilizer. And then you have the youth mobilizer or youth president. When you put woman as the woman king or the woman president and woman mobilizer, youth president, youth mobilizer, it tells a lot. Because that means they are there to mobilize for the party, right? But then we've seen in the government, it doesn't transcend to the government. It doesn't transfer to the government. You understand? You don't see the amount of women.
There's no replication of that
There's
idea
no,
at a national
exactly.
level.
Thank you. So at some point, you're using these people, you know, you're marginalizing them already in the party system. They have no voice. Their voice is what? To clap, to dance. So they call them the Yai Kompins. You know, the youths are clappers and t-shirt wearers, you know, and they don't share the same values or voice. You use them, you use the name, the youths, the women, we stand for you. But then we have seen time and time again that it never was, how do you call it, replicated or represented in government. The only president that really had that representation in government was the president, Yahya Jammeh. You know, with all that we can say about him, he made sure that he had the first female vice president, which was a big thing, especially for Africa, you know. And he had women representation in the government as well. And he had a lot of women backing him. And he did empower a lot of them, you know, as far as business and stuff like that, which that is kudos to him. But then after that time, it's over.
Quickly, you lead the Alliance for Social Democrats as the leader of that political movement. We headed to 2026, just before delving into crucial regional and continental issues, because it's a Pan-African drive. But we want to know Mary Sok in depth in terms of her leadership expertise, so to speak. In one of the writings of Chinua Achebe, one of the greatest writers of our time, it says that a chick, that is a baby chicken, that will grow into a cock, can be known at the very day it hatches from egg. It begs the question, what are the tangibles or variables that Gambians can point at as evidence of your work to entrust you with the mantle of authority to steer the affairs of this nation for the next 5 years, come 2026? What can they point at you feel?
Well, Gambians can always, well, most of the Gambians that knew me are elderly, and they know that I have a history in the country prior to leaving the Gambia, going out to the US. And we've done a lot in the Gambia as a young person. I always tell people, Europe and America did not make me. I was made in Gambia. I was born, raised, educated, and worked in the Gambia. I've done a lot of support in the Gambia prior to leaving. I did my businesses here in the Gambia prior to leaving. And then coming back, I engaged in a lot of charity work. You know, I've worked with the rural area, people from the rural area, the village. I've done so much for the community. I've done wrestling matches for people that were vulnerable, because most of the guys that are in these wrestling matches marginalized in the sense that they go to these Arabic schools, which is called Dara, and don't have any future in the world of business here. So they try to show talent. So I've brought a lot into the country as far as projects and all that. But of course, most of these projects I brought, even at the time of the former president, was rejected, you know, or they felt that, oh, this woman doesn't play fair game, which they want money up front, or they want something out of it. You know, and these were projects today, if they were implemented, every Gambian would benefit, even the tourism sector. the tourism sector, I've played a big role in it. And every time it's a back and forth, back and forth. This is one of the reasons most people in the government know me so well.
Okay.
Because I've been going back and forth to those government offices since 2011 when I came here for a major project. Today, Ghana is celebrating that project.
Okay.
Ghana is celebrating the year of return. I brought that concept in 2011 to the Gambia, and it cost me a lot of money. But because of that, people in these offices that always see us from the diaspora as a threat. They feel that we're coming to take their jobs, or they feel that, oh, we know too much. Yes, we do know too much because we have the experience and the expertise. You understand? We will not come with such big magnitude of projects if we didn't know. And we're not only working on our own, we have people that we are working with that trust us enough to back it. Yeah. So when it comes to a lot of things that I've done for the Gambia, I think people already know that. I think people know Marie Sok before and Marie Sok now. The younger generation yet to know me, so they ask a lot of questions. But what I do tell them is, when Marie Sok came out in 2021 or 2019, I think it came out 2019, 2020, most of the elderly people never asked, who is she? They were quiet.
Okay.
The ones that were talking are the young people. Who is she? Where is she from? She's not Gambian. She doesn't look Gambian. Why is she like this? What's the look of a Gambian?
I was going to ask, why do you think such description was given?
Thank you. Well, they need to understand that we all came from different backgrounds and not only that, traditionally and culturally, Gambia is a country where we have different tribes woven in one cloth.
Massive
the same thread is weave us all together. And I'm an Aku. Aku has no tribe. And basically, I left a long time ago. And of course, coming back and people, oh, she looks foreign. She doesn't look, which is funny because in America, people will look at me like African Americans will look at me like, you're not from Africa. You don't look African. You're from America. And I'm like, I'm 100% African. So, going back to, vying for the highest office, I did not just come out and say, I want to be the president. People came to me and felt that they've seen what I've done in other political parties. They see what I stand for, what I'm fighting for. Therefore, and they've basically researched about me and find that, yes, this woman, we want her to lead us. And it's because of those people that I'm finding it difficult to even say I don't want to run for the president. Especially with all these people popping up every day, they want to be the president. I want to just say, you know what? I want to just step aside, go somewhere, Costa Rica, and enjoy my life.
I hold you right here. Those that are watching us on our social media platform, on Facebook and YouTube, I want to say massive salute to you, especially the diaspora population of the Gambia, not forgetting the rest of Africa too. French-speaking nations will say to you, merci de nous supporter too. Swahili-speaking nations that comprises Tanzania and Nairobi, Kenya will say to you, Jumbo, Asante Sana. To my own Liberian people in Pela will say, Kasai, Adama to the Sierra Leone people in Aku, or if you like Korea, will say, Wanakushio. To the Mendes people will say, Bieluve. On the other hand, I say to you, Kai Gorman to you. To Nigerians or southwestern part of the country that comprises Ekiti State, Ondo, Lagos, Ekiti, Kwara. The rest of all Yoruba-speaking nation will say to you, Eshe, Baoni, Otutu, Jomenta. To the southeastern part of the country that dominate the Igbos will say to you, one name the number, Ikaraka, Ijia, Mechuku Abiyama, Amama Amasi, Oshimiri Atata, Ikue, Mechuku Kike, Odoku Akataka, strengthening all of you wherever you are, under the sound of my voice, to the northern part of the country that is dominantly Islamic will say to you, Assalamu alaikum. So the Gambian people will say, to the Fulas will say, Meedima Moja, to the Madinka will say, Abaraka, to the Wolof will say, Jerejef. This is a Pan-African drive where we use the African solution for the African problems. Like Paul Kagame says, until Africans learn to own their own problems, find their own solutions, they won't be able to write their own stories. Let's delve deeper now into the theories of Pan-Africanism, the ideas of Pan-Africanism. Back in 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, African leaders, 32 of them, sat in that hall and spoke about the liberty, the independence, the economic stability, political stability, food sufficiency, the liberty of the continent, freedom. And 62 years after that, 1963, 62 years after that, the continent is still divided. The message they spoke about continental cohesion, the liberty, the independence of our continent, was still divided on several devices, like the tribe, the religion, the culture, and so to speak. Coming back to the Gambia, one of the first presidents of the late Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, he was very instrumental in the regional and continental cohesion. He served as the first prime minister and then ascended to the position of a presidency. He was one of the masterminds behind the International Tribunal Tolerance Center that took care of all livestock in West Africa. Not only that, it also fought harder in bringing about the African Charter on the Human and People's Rights. And he also had the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. And even after he left power, he led a mission in Nigeria 2007 as an observer, just about continental cohesion between amongst Africans. He fought for parliamentary procedures in Gambian politics, which later became a model for Africa. Fast forward to Yahya Jammeh, he was very pragmatic. He was very, most of his proclamations about Gambia growing what you eat and eating what you grow. And he spoke in Abuja, where he spoke Nigerian law. You cannot be exporting raw materials and then, challenging yourself as a nation. 2013, removing the Gambia from the Commonwealth, even though those values of Pan-Africanism and ideals of Yahya Jammeh were undermined by the brutal human rights violations, so to speak, for 22 years. Now we come to President Adama Barrow. Most of his speeches, most of his travels is about national, regional, and continental cohesion between and amongst the rest of Africa. It begs the question, do you think the Gambia has done enough in enhancing the message of our pioneers of Pan-Africanism? But do you still think, on the other hand, that there are rooms for improvement from the Gambia, small or mighty Gambia, in terms of adding value to the message of our regional and continental cohesion on the continent?
Yes, there's still a lot of room for improvement. Just like you mentioned, Sir Dawda did a lot on that. And you see, Gambia was basically known as one of the most peaceful countries in the world. And it reflected on all the visitors and guests we were having in the Gambia. And that gave us that name, beautiful, peaceful, smiling coast of Africa. And that also created a room for our tourism sector to be so elaborate and rich, compared to our neighboring countries, compared to Senegal in those days and Liberia. I remember Liberians came here to learn about our tourism system, how it was working, all because of the way Sir Dawda ruled on that peaceful mantle internationally. And Yahya Jammeh did work on that, but Yahya Jammeh was more on Africa, Gambia, to basically salvage its sovereignty. He didn't like the fact that we were in the Commonwealth, because there was a question about that. Like, what are we gaining when you say the Commonwealth? What Commonwealth are we really sharing? I mean, when you really truly sit and say, what are we gaining? What are the citizens of the Gambia gaining in that Commonwealth? And so forth and so on. The same thing with Senegal. There were neighbors. Yes, Sir Dawda came with that Senegambian Confederation. 1981. Exactly. But the reason why he was having so much beef with Senegal is the disadvantage that was being taken upon Gambians. So he was basically fighting for that. Because that is one of the reasons when we talk about Pan-African or Pan-Africanism, is how, as Africans, we need to come to Gambia, come together to basically have borderless Africa. Basically, we are Africans. We should not be, we can have borders, but let it be borders that are monitored. We can have business together, but let it be fair game. Because if it's not fair game, we're just imitating the how do you call it, our masters.
Yeah, masters. You know,
Exactly,
we kind
our
of
slave.
win-loss
Thank
approach.
you.
Yeah.
So, and this is what Yahya Jammeh was fighting for. Yes, of course, he went into a whole other lot of hoopla by himself, which when it comes to human rights and stuff, he violated some of these. But when you look at the overall picture, what he was trying to do was basically to have Gambia be on its own, you know, to showcase that Gambia can survive, Gambia can feed itself, Gambia has resources that can elevate Gambia to, he always says, Gambia as Singapore of Africa. And that today, we can see that that is possible because now Gambians are more aware that they have resources. Gambians are more aware that they really have a lot of how do you call it, soil, and they can grow what they eat, you know, and eat what they grow. And the unfortunate part with Jammeh was he cut ties with a lot of the West and all that. At a time probably that was a little bit premature because we needed that collaboration to be able to gain power. But he could have, or he could have made better relations with China and all the other countries, so that he can now have that what he needed for his country. Yes, we all know the West; they used to take, but the era of taking and not giving back, or a fair deal or fair negotiation, is over in Africa. You know, Africa is not bowing down anymore, especially these young cats. They're not bowing down anymore. They're like, no. This is ours, and we want a piece of the pie, and we want a fair deal. So all across Africa today is being echoed. Now with Adama Barrow, it's a different scenario. He, as a person, is a peaceful guy. But being a peaceful guy is not what takes a country. The country has to be peaceful. Yes, you have to advocate for peace, so peace will reign. But as a person, just to showcase that you are a peaceful guy. At the end of the day, what is peace? Peace is not, you will have peace if your next door neighbor is not taking advantage of you. You will have peace if you're not answering yes to your neighbors. We have a big problem right now with Senegal, which is basically from our borders to how they did with the port before they basically sold it out to the Turkish, you know, our seas and stuff like that. And there was advantage being taken against the Gambia, the oil Zaga. No one knows what's with the oil Zaga. So there's a lot of things that he's doing, and he's doing it based on when they just took over, they didn't understand, they didn't know. And because of that, Senegal took advantage of that. You understand? And that is what we are seeing as Gambians. Senegal took advantage of that. Until we, for example, I am in that seat, I will not know what really transpired because everything is kept under the carpet. It's kept under the hush-hush. Yes, he's seen as a peaceful president. He's tolerant. But Gambians ushered in the change. Gambian ushered in that democratic system. Because the way things were going, it was not the Gambian way of doing things, because Gambians are normally very peaceful, tolerable people, naturally. So, but what he's doing is he's showcasing himself as a peaceful man, but are your people living in peace? Because if you're a peaceful man, why do we have foreign soldiers in your state house? You understand? So that doesn't depict peace. Why do you have peacekeeping forces in the country?
The one who argue that the manner in which the transition took place
that was how many years ago?
Raised question.
But how many years ago was that?
Regional body wanting to ensure that the Gambia remains
but
as
how
peaceful
many
as
years
she's been.
ago was that? That's not depicting peace. When you bring foreigners here, or you bring people here, and you're driving from here to Koina or here to Bansang, it's full of military stops with guns. Does that depict peace?
You mentioned foreign. We're talking about the Pan-African Drive and the body that is here ensuring that the Gambia remains stabilized. That's a regional body, ECOWAS. Should we actually be termed as foreigners in our own region?
Well, we're not terming them as foreigners, but we're talking about, when we talk about soldiers, you know, regional soldiers on ground holding guns, does that depict peace, a peaceful country? You can travel the length and breadth of Europe and you won't see that.
Okay.
You won't see that. That happened in 2016. You took over 2021. There should have been some reforms. That way we have our own, even if you have military, let it be our own military police or whatever, but it's just too much on the borders, not only on the borders, on the highways, on the streets. It leaves a big question. And you will not understand that, or Gambians will not understand that until we that are coming from outside bring friends or bring people into the country. Listen, my daughter was here. My daughter was military. She's in the U.S. Navy. She came and we went to borders and she was like, not borders, we're just driving. And she was like, Mom, how many stops are there? He said, it's been so many years since I stopped with somebody with a gun. It makes you scared. It makes you feel like,
You want to save around?
should I get prepared? Like, and then some of these soldiers were acting. There was one point where they stopped us and we didn't see them stop us, so we drove past and they were yelling and screaming, and one of the soldiers was jumping with the guns.
In essence, are you saying
Is that correct?
In essence, are you saying that the ECOWAS team here protecting the peace and stability of this country is not necessarily expected to leave? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Back to 1963 in Addis Ababa, when those leaders spoke about the essence of all Africa coming together under one umbrella, becoming one in terms of our independence, economically, politically, and otherwise. And the Liberian president at the time, William Vakanara Shadrach Tubman, he says something, look, he told the rest of all the 31 leaders that, look, we cannot be discussing the independence or the unison of the entire continent when we haven't cleaned up our closet. Clean up our closet as in we cannot be divided in our respective nations and we expect to have a unified continent. There is a need that we go back in our respective homes and build bridges. Like in my country as a president, the American Liberians and the indigenous Liberians are divided. You go to Nigeria, you still have the Igbos, the Hausas, and the Yorubas. You come to Sierra Leone, the Mendes and the Timinins, they are divided. Till today, the gap is still there. In the conversations of the Hausa, the Igbos are not found. In the conversations of the Yorubas, the Igbos are alien to that. And it goes to the Central African Republic, to the Selicat Islamic and the anti-Balaka Christianic group. They're still divided. Since the day of David Darko in the 60s, that nation has not experienced peace. When Jean Behel Bokassa took over, that nation has not experienced peace just based on tribal lines. So the message that was spoken too many years back in 1963 has not resonated with the Africans. We're still divided. Where did we get it wrong?
well, until, I think can go back to colonialism. When the colonial master came to Africa, it divided Africa by lines. The history is there. This tribe, they draw a line. You own here, you own here. When it was all one big tribe. Yes, we do have our own tribes and different cultures per se, but there was more unity at the time, that commonality, Now, because of that was embedded in our mindset or injected into our system, they now created a divide, like you're this tribe. And then, of course, when they were here, they made sure they favored certain tribes and certain tribes they don't favor. So now that brought this cult or divide or social gaps or elites, you're better than that. And that has not left our system or our shores. And until we bridge that gap and see ourselves as Africans, it will be very difficult for Africa to move forward. And this is one of the reasons when the African Union was formed, people were very excited. People thought the African Union will be the home of, bringing Africa together under one. We all have to respect our tribes. We all come from different tribes, different cultures. It's beautiful. That is what makes Africa beautiful.
Our diversity.
Thank you. But the moment we now use that politically, then you're creating a manipulative divide and rule. And most leaders use that. If they know that their tribe is the majority, they cannot use that divide and rule system to tell their own tribal people, like, this is your home.
Because we see a lot of
Like, if you
politicians.
tell me, like, this is my home, automatically I was like, oh, this is where I fit. Then now, if I go there and somebody else that's not in my tribe wants to come in, I'm kind of inviting them in, but it's like you're not really in because you're not from here.
You get a sense of
So
ownership.
until we have leaders that believe in the Pan-African system and the values, why we call it Pan-African or Pan-Africanism, then we're going to continue on this path. And but we are seeing a shift. We're seeing a shift. There are young leaders coming up. Their mothers, women coming up and saying, enough is enough. These are all our children. You know, we need to be together. We need to unite. The reason why we are having all this loss of wealth, loss of resources, is exactly this divide and rule system that was brought in by the colonial master. We ourselves are beginning to behave like that without even realizing that we're just mimicking the colonial master. You know, when you have, a society, like even in the Gambia today, you see a lot of politicians, they use that. They use that to gain supporters. Then once they gain that supporter, which is the majority of their tribe, they now try to get other supporters from other tribes by now opening the door and saying, no, we are for everybody. No, you're not for everybody because you made sure you gave home to your tribe and then now you open the door. Now, when you open the door, the others that would come in, they will not feel at home. And this is one of the reasons, coming back to the Gambia, I, as a politician, I stand as an independent candidate. Because I feel that as an independent candidate, I have no fear or favor. It doesn't matter who comes to me. You know, I invite all Gambians, and I see everybody as just one, a Gambian. And today, that speaks for itself when we travel abroad. When we travel abroad, we don't say, oh, I am Igbo, I am Igbo, I am a Mandinka. It says on your passport you're a Gambian. And until we start selling our sovereignty, our Gambianness, you know, we are not going to be respected at all. And we're going to continue being divided because they will mastermind that. And they will put that in your head that, no, this tribe is not good or this tribe, and you're going to live by that, and you're going to continue divide and rule in your country, in Africa, to the point where we're getting more and more distant. So talk is cheap. Going to the meeting in Addis Ababa, sitting on a round table, talking about policies 3-4 days in a row, receiving per diems, talking about all that, but then you go back home, the buck stops right at that meeting. How many times, how many years do we have leaders going to these meetings and coming back and you don't hear anything, nothing? If they do something about it, it's nothing but seminars. They get some funding, they do some seminars, they teach 1 or 2 people will be there. The majority that are supposed to be there don't even understand the language they speak because they make it so that it is only for the educated few. So when you want to discuss division or tribal lines about Africa, it's not just about talking about it. It's about when we see how it is being implemented. Listen, I am a Gambian, right? I see myself as a Gambian. I don't associate with any tribe. We call ourselves the Akus or the Creoles. The story of the Akus or the Creoles was these were people that came back after slavery, or these were people that were brought back. And we don't know our tribe anymore. We just come in and we start mingling. We educated a lot of people, brought a lot of people in our homes so that we can we intermarry to those tribes. We didn't care whether it was Fula, Jola, or because we just feel that we're all Gambians. We're happy to be home.
And that is the best way to go.
And today, Gambia is even doing better on those tribal lines because we honestly do not have tribal issues.
Gambia is a bit better.
Honestly,
it's important that we actually
no,
emphasize.
we do have to emphasize on that because we want to show the world that as much as we have so many different tribes here in the Gambia, we do much better than a lot of countries.
Because let's look at what
we intermarry. In one compound in Gambia, you see a Mandinka, you see a Jola, you see a Wolof, all married. Thank you. You will see a man with 3 wives. Each wife is from different backgrounds. So we are doing well as far as that. It's just few politicians that want to use that because they're copying. They want to use that against the people to divide and rule.
If you look at Nigeria now, since 1967, when the Igbos failed to be marginalized, that led to the Civil War, where millions of Southeasterners lost their lives. In fact, today
even the Igbos, I think they're calling for Biafra, that they want to.
Died on this date, on the 26th day of this month of November. You understand that? He died in 2011.
That
was
true.
one of the chief adjutants of the Biafra.
And
now, just some part of last week, a little above 7 days, you had Nnamdi Kanu from Abia State, who is agitating for the liberty and the independence of the people of Biafra. He's been sentenced to life imprisonment because of preaching for the right message for his people, because of inequality, because of all of the social gaps.
But that's what I'm saying. But that is what colonialism did.
And when the gaps comes, it exposes the African continent to Western
manipulate. Yes,
we are volatile. We are very empty. We try to seek the foreign aid that provided an opportunity to tap into our natural resources. Criminally.
Insurgent stats.
So it's important that we stress that because it is the best way forward that we put aside our tribal differences and hold together.
Rwanda was a big example.
Of course.
Even Sierra Leone too was a big example. And that's one of the reasons, in a way, we're happy that Gambia is not on that level. That's one of the reasons that we say that, hey, Gambian doesn't have tribal issues. It's few politicians that want to use that to manipulate few people. Exactly. And we need to stop that. Even the head of state that is sitting right now, he would have a meeting in the State House and said, okay, he has a meeting with the Sarahule elders. Like, really, or you have a meeting with Sarahule community. Don't do that because you're sending a signal because today you call yourself a Sarahule, you're calling the Sarahule community. Tomorrow you said you're a Fula, you call the Fula community. Tomorrow you say you're Mandinka. No, what you need to do, you said you have some elders that are coming here to see you. Let it be without tagging a tribe, because now you're creating, are the Sarahules better than the rest of the people? Are the Fulas better than the rest of the people? Is it because they make more money? So you as a head of state, it is very important how you talk to or talk with your people, because you don't want to drive that tribal sentiment, which can create hate. Thank you. Exactly. So this is one of the reasons we need a unifier in the Gambia. We need a unifier in Africa. Africa needs to do that. Yes, we can say we will have a borderless Africa, but the borderless Africa has to be monitored border, a border where we monitor that rebels and don't scrutinize people that don't go in and out. But it is time, just like in the US, you can travel to any state. America is just like in Africa, different countries, so they're divided into states. So you can travel to different states, you can enter into different states. You don't have to worry about border patrol or whatever, and go in and out, do your thing, and everybody's one. They speak one language, you understand. And sometimes we have maybe two, like Spanish and English and stuff like that. You go into California. California was part of, Mexico, Texas and all this, but today it's integrated. Even in California, around San Diego, you can drive into Mexico. You can go to Mexico in the morning and eat lunch and breakfast and drive back in. There is a border, and you just show your ID or your passport, and you cross, and you can cross back again. So if they can do that in their countries, in Europe today, you can travel all over Europe with an ID. In fact, few countries are making progress. I think in 1994, Rwanda was almost considered a lost nation. Yes. But they dealt with the issue of the tribe. If you ask an average Rwandan, what tribe are you? They're not going to say I'm Tutsi or exactly. I'm a Rwandan. Tanzania did the same under the Mwalimu Julius. Senegal is good with that.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And the investor in the human resource capacity of the nation,
Exactly.
putting aside tribal differences, so to speak. So we've got to do more. We've
Yes.
got to do more across the
Yes.
continent if we expect to change the negative paradigm.
In Senegal,
So
it's
to
the
speak.
same thing. Most Senegalese, when you ask, oh, I don't even know what tribe I'm from. I think my grandmother is this, and they don't. All they do is just with Senegalese.
Yeah.
I am Senegalese, and I think Gambians need to start embracing that I am a Gambian. And if all African countries begin to embrace their countries instead of their tribe,
Yeah.
I think that will help us to move forward. You know, the young people today that are traveling all over should not be divided by tribe.
Yeah.
You know, okay, yes, we are
religions.
Gambians,
Yeah.
or we are Gambian, you are Senegalese, but at the end of the day, we are one Africa.
Of course.
And the only time Africa comes together as one is when we play football.
Yeah, yeah. That's when the tribe is healing. All of those
Thank
things are
you,
healing.
thank you.
Yeah.
So I think when we promote that, and as leaders of Africa, we need to make sure it starts from our own home. You can't stand on a global stage and talk about it when back home, you as a leader, you're not doing that.
That's a great one there from you. It remains the Pan-African Drive, where we use the African solutions for the African problem. Our system has been infiltrated. There are lots of hindrances, barriers here and there. The tribal distractions disturbing our continent so dearly much, escalating into religious violence. You see the nation of Nigeria. And I always say that 1 out of every 5 Africans is a Nigerian. So to a very huge extent, the day Nigeria stands still as a nation, to a very huge extent, the rest of Africa will stand still.
Oh, yeah.
But today, if you watch the news, in Kebbi State, over 312 students were being abducted from their schools. Pastors, students have been killed, pregnant women have been killed in Kwara State. You know, there are a lot of banditry, harassment, kidnapping, and then weapons all over the place. All of the
And they're
issues
being supplied the weapons from where?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
need to
they-
ask, where is it coming from?
Yeah, and you ask yourself a question: where are all of these things come from? Inequality,
Yeah.
leadership failing to have a judicial distribution of the natural cake. So, as a politician, if you had an opportunity to have sat before the various heads of state and governments of Africa in headquarters in Addis Ababa, so to speak, or Abuja, or wherever that podium would be, what would be a message to the rest of all the African leaders when it comes to creating a stabilized Africa that will be void of all the tribal distractions, religious discrimination, so to speak, so that we are a force to reckon with? Well, what would be your message?
Well, my message might not be something that they would like to hear, especially as a woman in politics, and seeing that most of these countries are led by men. You know, it's basically to put their egos aside and really work for the people. Because if they really do care about their people, then there should not be the system of insurgents or divide and rule, you know, because it all comes about power. You know, it's all power. The one that is at power play, of course, his people, his tribe will see that they have the power. You know, so they have to basically use a holistic approach into basically looking back into what is creating these issues. What is it? Is it this people? Is it that these people are marginalized? And if so, what should be done about it? And if it is your people, your tribe that is creating that, what can you do about it as a leader? Because we can't talk about unity. We can't talk about Africa becoming one when these things are persistent in our individual countries. So, and most of the time, men have this ego, you know, to let things go, you know, and it might not be a good speech because it might be delving direct into the problem, probably insulting all of them for sitting there and seeing the children of Africa perish, seeing the countries of Africa being basically derailed, you know, and marginalized to the point where it allows outsiders, the West, to infiltrate, because you have to ask yourself, where do they get this guns, or where do they get this grenades and all that? Where is it coming from? Somebody's making business out of it. So when something like this happens, somebody's behind that. These people are not just picking it on the street. So African leaders should be held accountable. As it is happening in the countries, they need to be held accountable for these things that are happening in the countries, because it's not an excuse that you sit as the president in a city or in Abuja or wherever you are, and then still sit back and watch something like that happening.
But I also strongly believe, I agree with your point very well, but I also strongly believe that I think the electorates, we the voters, have also got a responsibility.
Of course.
Because in your earlier response, you said that politicians are using a tribe, using the religions to their own advantage in terms of for manipulating the masses to to gather their votes, so to speak. So I think it is high time that voters should be able to filter any man or woman that should be given a mantle of authority to steer the affairs of a particular nation must be brought to the totality of presidential scrutiny.
That is why I said, and the people have a responsibility. If you see that you have a head of state that is going through all these abnormalities or abnormal behaviors, and basically talking about, I had a meeting with Sarahules, or tomorrow I had a meeting with Fullers. This is already creating a problem, and we need to shy away from that, because the countries that went through that have gone through a lot, and we've seen it. We've all witnessed it. We all had TVs and the news, so we know. And we can't encourage that. So it's the voters as well that have the responsibility, or the citizens that have the responsibility to say, this is we need to stop that. We need to take the country back. We need to take our country back. We need sanity. Because even today in countries where you say the Hutsi, the Tutsi, there are people who intermarry, and it's like a taboo, to marry. Like, why would that be a taboo? At the end of the day, we're all human beings. When you die, you're not dying dying and going to heaven in a Hutsi, palace, or a Tutsi palace, or a Mandingo palace. You die, and your body becomes a carcass, and your soul goes wherever it goes, and it all goes there, from what we understand from biblical teachings and Quranic teachings. So we need to save humanity. That is the most important thing. We need to save humanity. We need to look at humanity in a holistic manner. Humanity is everything. It's not about your tribe. It's not about your country. You are in Africa. You're an African first. Then you are a citizen of a place in Africa, whether it's in Gambia, in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone. You are a human. That is why we need to salvage. We need to salvage humanity. Humanity is first amongst anything else.
That's a very strong word. She says we need to service humanity. That is putting aside your tribal differences, your religious differences, and hold together for national and continental growth. Considering all of these gaps, social gaps, economic gaps, and religious gaps, so to speak, which are serious departure from the ideals of Pan-Africanism that was agitated by our forefathers, like the Julius Nyerere, the Nkrumah, the William Tubman, the Jawara, and Nnamdi Azikiwe of Nigeria, and so to speak. What's your hope and conviction about this continent in terms of its stability and growth in the next 5, 10, 15 years? Do you think we're headed somewhere positive?
Well, we're heading. I mean, we see few
I
leaders.
I ask this question because we are bleeding.
We
You
are.
go to Niger Republic, they are bleeding. Tribal lines. You go to South African Republic, they're bleeding.
But we have
Nigeria,
this is one of the reasons Africa has to start scrutinizing what kind of leaders they want to lead them. Because in Burkina Faso, we take Burkina today as a big example, and Burkina is leading by that example. He's young, he's fierce, he's doing it the way it's supposed to be. Yes, a lot of people might not like it, because whatever it is that you're doing right, it's difficult to like by some that are not. Thank you. So he's doing what every African leader is supposed to do. Ghana was trying by doing, especially when it comes to their resources, by having now their cocoa processed in Ghana for the people. They're using their human resources, localizing everything. And when you localize, you're also using your human capital. The youths, less and less will go to back way. So these are things that I think the future is bright for Africa. And that is one of the reasons the fair is growing in the West, because they don't want Africa to industrialize. They don't want Africa to grow. They don't want Africa to become one. Now,
localize the
Africa has
industries.
to fight.
Yeah.
And we are looking through the youths, the young people, our human capital, to stand up and to look around them and be that future. Because we have to breathe young, dynamic young people like Ibrahim Traore to save the nation. And that is why we need to fight now so we can produce sons and daughters that are not being manipulated or be induced, influenced with drugs. You understand? We need to have children that are ready to take over. Today we are in Gambia where children, young people are dying of kush, taking into this drug, this nonsense drugs that they bring from the West. They're killing out the children of Africa that they know are the leaders of tomorrow. And we need to fight that. That is one of the reasons I call on also women to stand on the round table in Africa, to start to lead as women, as mothers, because most time our young men, they need their mothers to talk to them, because there's no man that is not born from a mother. There is no man that is powerful without a woman at the back or standing behind him or beside him.
Yeah, madam. Considering all of these deficiencies on the part of Africa and African leadership that has led our system to be very volatile in terms of infiltration in our democracy, the dependency syndrome, lack of opportunities for young people, that is a total departure from the message of the pioneers of Pan-Africanism. There are still elements of positive across the continent in few nations. So as a politician and potential candidate for the forthcoming general presidential elections, and considering your own survey across the continent in terms of research and experience, at face value experience, what model across Africa in terms of leadership do you think, if you had a chance to being the president of the Gambia, you would like to borrow or import in the Gambia, by extension the rest of the African continent, in the midst of all of the struggles in terms of our leadership deficit? There should be some element of positive you might want to bring to the Gambia, by extension the rest of the continent.
Indeed. If you look at our policy, we're adopting a system where we want our children to be educated. You know, we want also food sustainability and all that, health as well. So when you look at the system that Mauritius adapted, yes, and they made sure that their citizens are educated. Quality education, free education for all, access to education. Their health system is great. So exactly. So this is because this is your human capital. These are the young people that you have to groom for tomorrow. Even if we're talking about industrialization in Africa, we need to educate them to be able to do that. So you can't be industrializing, but then bringing foreigners or other people across the region to do that. So you use your human capital by educating them, giving them access, giving them the tools, preparing them for that. And the other one that I would love really to also implement or take from is the way Ibrahim Traore is industrializing everything, Burkina Faso, you know. And I've been talking about it a long time. I have even a module, you know, a production module for rice, because Gambians eat rice all day, every day. And I already developed that module. I developed it for West Africa. This is something that I've been talking about. I've been talking about making little tomato factories, pepper factories, and stuff like that. Listen, this is the way to go. Just imagine a Gambia where now the people are educated, and not only educated as in the books, educated as in skills, educated as in gardening, farms, teaching them all this technology, you know, in schools, because now we're talking about mechanized agriculture. Gone are the old days of agriculture. So they need to learn that, and it can start already from the school system. And then you now industrialize. So imagine tomato paste being made in the Gambia, tomato puree, pepper paste, and all these things, little things you can do in the country. Even as much as we talk about Gambia, they like Maggi and they like Jumbo. You can do all that. It's just dried seafood and stuff like that, but they don't have the means nor the know-how to process these things. And then you create an access. What is the access? The access where they can resell, where it can go into our markets, our supermarkets, prior to exporting outside. So these are things that people can do without a government can create this access to all these things for the people, and the nation can grow. When you look at today's economy in the Gambia, for example, I was just breaking it down for some women in the market. I said our money is how do you depreciating in value. I said but I have to talk in layman terms for her to understand. I said today you are going to the market, you're selling your tomatoes, your jahatu, your kanja, okra, and stuff like that. After you sell those things that you got from your garden in your backyard, you taking that money, you going now to the store and you're buying Maggi Jumbo.
Yeah.
Jumbo is from Senegal. You buying tomato paste, it's from Senegal. You buying oil, it's from Senegal.
Yeah.
You buying rice, it's imported. At the end of the day, the money that you worked, the seeds that you grew in your backyard, and you sell those vegetables, you're now taking that money and paying for foreign items that are now going there out of your country. So how can you ever make money? How can you ever why wouldn't the money depreciate? Because everything is, and not only that is going out, our currency is our own. So whatever goes out, you're changing to dollars or CFA.
That's right.
So we all the time at the losing end. So when I break it down like this to the local person, because that is the kind of language they understand. They don't understand that, the economical market value that me talk. Yeah. So you have to break it down on that level so that they see that Wanga Digade, you're saying the right thing. Because honestly, when I sell everything, I have to everything I buy to put in that pot. So instead of her buying those things that are going out, we can produce all of that. And these are small industrial, very small machines. A paper paste machine is you can have the small machine even if you don't buy the big one. It's available. You can even look at it online. So many things that we can create for ourselves that we don't have to import. And I think this is where the leaders are getting it wrong. But of course, we choose leaders that tell us that they didn't know anything. They're learning as they go.
You're learning on the job. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. But just before I take leave of you, what are your final words for the leadership, the population of the continent going forward, becoming stabilized as in line with the ideas of Pan-Africanism, going back to the root, finding our missing roots and becoming the kind of continent that we've always envisaged?
I think Africa, just like you said, Africa has to go back. We need to go back. We need to look back and remember our ancestors, remember what they have done, what they left here, our values, and our togetherness as humans, and our spirituality. Because once you embark on those, then you now come into humanity.
Yeah.
You understand? Because it grounds you, it humbles you. And I think African leaders should be humbled and understand that they're here to serve, not to be served. They're here to serve. It comes with a lot of humility. It comes with a lot of humility. So, my message to all African leaders is to think humanity. Once you think humanity, then you tie that to I have to serve my people.
Follows all of your actions.
Then I have to go back to my roots. What is your root? Your ancestral root. Then you now go into your spirituality, which is a very humbling path. And once you arrive at that humbling path, then you can serve.
Thank you so dearly much. That's a very great one, dear. Wherever you are, under the sound of my voice, this remains the Pan African Drive that comes your way on Teledal TV with me, Tony Michael Howard, your host. We were in a close conversation before Madam Marisol Javi. It's a beautiful experience having on the
Yes,
platform on the
thank you.
official launching of the Pan
Thank you.
African Drive. We're very
Thank you.
humble
Thank
to
you.
you. She stressed very important points about unifying spirit between and amongst Africans as a catalyst for national and continental unison. We've got to put aside our tribal differences, our religious differences, and then hold together for national and continental development. She also spoke about the need to invest in the human resource capacity of our population as a continent, because St. Thomas Aquinas in philosophy, he says that the original height of a man is not from the head to the toe. The natural height of a man is from the neck to the head, which means how high you reason or think makes you a taller man, and how limited you think makes you a shorter man. So if we can be able as a continent and people, in terms of investing in the human resource base of our population, that will serve as a standing, should I say, a preventive measure from the Western infiltration in our democracy, which has filtered our system in a manner that we are being compromised. This is a Pan-African Drive, and remember that we must hold together, like the Wolof says, nit point garabam. That is the medication of one human is another human. In other words, we are complement of one another. We are not meant to live through the means of competition. The Mandingas will say, well, Nanyu Muta, you know, yet Ben Alan Japan say. And the quote for the day, just before I take leave of you, it says that we are in a dire need for the skin of a leopard does not mean that we should settle for that which has been destroyed by maggot. I repeat, that we are in a dire need for the skin of a leopard does not mean that we should settle for that which has been destroyed by maggot. In other words, that we are so hungry and desirous of decent leaders does not mean that we should just choose anybody. Anybody who should be given a mantle of authority to steer the affairs of our nation, be it Gambia, Senegal, Liberia, Congo, Seychelles, Mauritius, and all parts of Africa, that person, he or she must be brought to the totality of presidential scrutiny. They should be judged on their character, their competence, and capacity, and not sentiment like the tribe or religions or session or region or what have you. That is the best way forward. In the absence of that, we are going nowhere. To my Southern African people, I say to you, Sani Bunani Zanzi, Geya Nimbingelela. To Botswana, I say to you, Rilabo Helabo, Lengting Jahao, French speaking nations, Messi Dunabo, Supporte. This is Tony Michael Howard with a Pan African Drive. And to our followers in the diaspora, say thank you. Without you, there's no Teledon TV. And it comes weekly on Teledon TV, nowhere else. Follow us on our social media platform on Facebook and YouTube, as well as TikTok. See you some other time. If you like, follow us. Bye-bye.